So I've been playing this homebrew campaign in a sort of Conan the Barbarian setting. Most of my players are barbarians. It's been a blast, but at one point, one of my players said, "It's time to get serious," during a tough encounter, and took off their shirt while screaming in rage. They proceeded to roll a nat 20 to the shock of everyone. Then one by one, they all started getting really hyped and started taking off their shirts, screaming. They ended up winning the encounter. It was a funny moment, but ever since then, they have been calling themselves the Beef Brigade, refusing to play with shirts on. I mean, it's cool. They want to get into character, but I don't really like this. Every time I tell them to not take off their shirts, they get upset. They all start to flex and tell me things like, "You can't stifle the beef," or calling me things like bad beef. I just don't know what to do or how to stop this. If anyone has dealt with a similar situation, I would love some advice. My fellow friend in Christ, I don't think anyone has dealt with a similar situation, and if any of you guys have, feel free to give this guy advice in the comments. I think the need is growing more and more desperate. I have no advice to give. I luckily play with a group who keep shirts on at all times. Oh god, I really hope they don't watch this video. This happened a few years back, so I'm gonna try to remember all the details. We were getting ready for a Christmas event in Nastara. The city was holding a festival with various competitions, and depending on what place you got, your group was awarded tickets you could exchange for common and uncommon magical items. Some were exclusive to this event and couldn't be received elsewhere. Day one was going to be a massive snowball fight. We wanted to check out the field so we could plan out where we would be and how we would move forward. But we were told we weren't allowed on the field itself, but we could get a look from a distance. It was a large field. This was to prevent cheating. So we make our way to the field when all of a sudden a figure in the distance on the field itself casts Ice Storm on us. This would have outright killed one of the NPC buddies we had with us, but one of the party members countered it. Guess it's lucky no one remembered the 60-foot rule at the time. This initiated combat. We couldn't see who was attacking us because they were attacking us from high up and would just pop out to attack and then go back to cover. But it was definitely multiple people attacking us. So we lobbed AoE spells up there and the combat ended pretty quickly. Well, we managed to find our way up there and found out it was a group of kids. Apparently they had gone up there to cheat during the event by doing some prep. The group had decided to keep everything quiet because there were no witnesses, and people tend to freak out when you admit to killing a bunch of kids, even if it was in self-defense. The next day, apparently, people were all talking about the massacre that a group of adventurers had committed, this horrific act, and they were all talking about video evidence of the thing taking place via magic crystal ball, except the video conveniently left out the part where they attacked us first! With Ice Storm, by the way. How did these kids get access to a 4th level spell? And some of the parents were super rich, so they were able to pay to have their kids revived. And of course, they were telling everyone that they didn't do anything wrong, so now we're wanted for murder. I wanted to clear our name by turning ourselves in to exchange for a fair trial where everyone involved was testifying under a zone of truth. Pretty straightforward. Me and one other disguised ourselves magically and pretended to be the lawyers of our characters so we could make a deal out in writing. We walked up and explained the situation. Well, apparently the cops had a friendly beholder working for them, which took away our magic disguises and we were locked up. I said, "That's fine, we can still make this work. We're just gonna spend some downtime waiting for the trial." Well, while we're in prison, the DM has another NPC we knew break us out of the prison by killing some of the guards and starting a riot? At this point, there was nothing we could do because they were going to blame us for just being involved. So we ran. We met up with the rest of the group and plane shifted right out of there. The DM later told us we weren't going to get a trial and that prison was meant to keep us there forever because the higher-ups only cared about the rich people's word over ours. Myself and the other guy that was in prison also had all of our magic items and gold taken away, and there was just no way to get them back. Honestly, we should have just left that with the party before we attempted to disguise ourselves, so I'll admit that was a fault on my part. My question is, for you guys, is this the absolute worst case of railroading and DM BS y'all ever seen? Or am I the asshole here for complaining? I mean, this just completely ruined the game for everyone involved, and the entire group left the Discord server after that and started our own group. A buddy and I still refuse to go to Mystara in other campaigns because of our immense wanting to blow the place up. Is there anything we did wrong here? No! Not even gonna bother with the drum roll. This isn't the worst case of railroading we've ever seen. Like, ever seen ever is kind of a strong statement when you've done hundreds of these, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. The DM is pulling some serious cases of fiat. Just random things that come out of nowhere so the DM can get what they want. You get attacked by ice storm, randomly the person attacking you is a bunch of kids for no reason. Which, by the way, that sort of content, violence against children, is not something you should just pull out of nowhere. It should absolutely be something clarified before the game. Maybe that happened with this DM, but somehow I doubt it. Also, I mean, even crazier than that somehow is the beholder just randomly in the courtroom. Because, yeah, beholders are totally going to work for mortal governments. Which, look, ignoring lore, it's still stupid. I mean, if this is a party that's dealing with Ice Storm, a 4th level spell as lethal, then the beholder is definitely way above their pay grade. In summary, as I'm pretty sure people say these days, it's giving nothing. This was some years ago, in 4th edition. We were running a campaign mostly through the Underdark, with 4 players in the DM, around level 8 through 10. Overall, the campaign was good, however, the distribution of magic items was not. The DM had a fixation on making any magic item dropped be cursed, and not like a mild curse. Debilitating and deadly ones were more their style. Our first magic item was an axe. When our teammate picked it up, he had to roll a will saving throw, with a DC beyond what a 20 would grant. When he failed, he immediately began attacking his teammates in a bloodthirsty rage. He was immune to all status effects, as we found out when attempting to paralyze and sleep him. There was no save and no solution. We were only able to stop him by killing the player character. Even his unconscious body would fight us. The next item was a small ring in an unassuming chest buried with a chest in a rock on a small underground island. Activating the ring turned you to stone permanently. I should also mention, we didn't have a cleric with us, but I don't remember how easily they can deal with a status effect at 4th level. Our last item was an amulet. I was forced to roll a will save. It summoned a skeleton that immediately turned around and attacked me. It wasn't very dangerous, so we experimented a bit. It wasn't useful in combat because, best we could figure, all the amulet did was summon a skeleton that attacked the person who summoned it. At this point, we just stopped picking up items. We had so far not found anything that was a net boon for our group. All the items we found seemed to want to kill us in some way, so we, as a group, opted not to take items anymore from this cursed place. We bypassed several items, and the DM even went out of his way to describe the opulence and divine wonder of one in particular, a chalice. But we would not have it. Careful, boys. The more extravagant the item, the more horrible the curse. A halberd, a magic book, suits of armor, all radiating magic, all ignored. After about 3 to 4 sessions, the DM began canceling on us, sometimes the day of. After a month, we began asking about the campaign. He informed us he would no longer be DMing for us, because none of us were interested in the world he had crafted, despite the fact that we enjoyed everything besides the cursed items. Anyway, I guess that wasn't good enough. By passing on his cursed items, and he did eventually admit all the other items were absolutely cursed, but couldn't help but share a couple, we were obviously not interested in anything about his campaign, and he stopped running it. Even now, when I share details about the campaign I am currently running, he always feels I could spice it up with a couple of cursed items for my players, like a 2-handed axe that fuses with your hands so you can do nothing with them besides hack and chop. Guys, as a DM who loves giving my players tons of magical loot, and as a DM who occasionally curses said loot, I have to say, this guy is lame. Obviously, instant death curses and just mild annoyances aren't fun for magic items. It's not going to incentivize your players to pick up said items if all of them are cursed. You know, when everything is cursed, nothing may as well be cursed, because it's not special anymore. Also, don't reveal the curse right away. Do you have any idea the joy I get when a player picks up an item and they see this on the card? Simply saying that the item is cursed, but not knowing what the curse is. There is nothing like the bliss of revealing a curse months after the player picks up the item. The dread of realizing that this mask has a 10% chance of turning you into an Oni is just too awesome to pass up. Seriously, this DM is making us cursed magic item givers just look bad. I just found out about this subreddit, and I have to tell you all about the moment that destroyed my friend's group and got me out of Pathfinder and D&D for 5 years, even though I have a deep love of the game. I have always been the DM, but not by choice. My friends didn't want to do it, but they liked D&D and wanted to play it, so I did it. I wasn't really good at it, admittedly. I tried my best, but it was hard to fill our crazy 7-hour-a-week sessions, and I got burnt out after 2 years of doing it. I wanted to play a character really badly, and most of my sessions resulted in me putting in my character ideas as enemies for my party to fight. But a stroke of luck, one of my friend's buddies is coming home from the army. He plays D&D. He even wrote his own book and has comic books he made about his world. He loves DMing and is open to running this for our group. I am overwhelmed with joy. A wee lad of 19-year-old heart. He shows up, we go hang out with him, and he brings up the campaign, and he tells me how it's going to be a great time. We start telling him character ideas, which he promptly rejects. A ton of them, as they won't fit in his world. But in my naive brain, no red flags yet, so I bring him this character idea that's been cooking for a year or more. The ultimate buff class. A support that doesn't heal, but gives powerful bonuses to all the party members. It was like a bard mixed with a cleric, and I wanted the character to be a royal, gifted child who used the leadership feat to have a father figure walk with him. Pretty sick, right? Makes all my party members just sweet in combat, summons a few helpers, and buffs them too. I took this idea to him and he said, sure, you could do this. I even broke out the books to show him exactly how it was done when he asked, and he thought it was such a creative and cool idea that I must have gotten it from a forum or a YouTube video, but I hadn't. I came up with it all on my own by just digging through the book for years, and he agreed to it. I am giddy. We get to the table, we already had our lackluster campaign wrapped up, and we were about to begin this new campaign. I'm seated next to the new DM. I have my character sheet, I have all my stuff printed out for my major spells and abilities for quick reference. I spent time notating all my interactions so that I would have all my books open. I was prepared. I had 5 sheets of paper in front of me. The DM has this big grin on his face like the Cheshire Cat. He says, "One thing to handle before we start." He scoops up my sheets of paper and literally tears them in half, then into quarters. "You won't be needing this. Here's your new character sheet." He slaps down an acolyte NPC character in front of me. "Children can't be player classes. It's in the rules. I'll be generous and let you play this. You'll gain your powers when you turn into a teenager in 6 years or so." He is dying laughing, and so is the friend who invited him, and everyone else around the table is just awkward. I didn't know how to even react. All the color drained from my face. I was crushed. I told him, but we went over everything. We approved it. I asked if you had any problems, and he said, "Well, you didn't look at the rules for playing a child, did you?" What rules? Seriously though, like, actually, what rules is he talking about? Because I have no idea what he's talking about. Now, this is where the story should end, but I was so desperate to play, and this was my friend's best friend, and he kept telling me it was okay, and I'll teach you to be a better role player. I endured 3 weeks of this. My friends stood up for me and said it wasn't right to make me play a neutered NPC while they all tried to play player classes, so he gave me my class back but took away half my spells. We got into a situation where a farm family took me in as their adopted child, and their dad violently abused my character. I was in there trying to gather info or something, so I used sleep to keep them asleep while I escaped. Now my friend started messing around, joking, saying, "Burn it down, do it." So honestly, having lost all care for my character, I realized acolytes had burning hands, and I burnt down their little farmhouse to the ground. The DM was pissed, as this was an important family to his book, but he thought my character's long backstory that I wrote for him was interesting, so he decided to add it in. I gained my full cleric function, but I now was crazy and prone to blackouts, where he would take control of my character and turn me into a paladin, and all my spells and abilities would just cease to exist. He demonstrated this with my first combat. I got all my buffs rolling when the boss showed up. He made my character blackout, took control of it as an NPC, and I had to sit out for the rest of the combat as I'm in a rage-induced fugue state? But that's okay, I'm becoming a better role player is what they keep telling me. And by the way, my character is so cool that I'm being added to his book. I've had it by this point. I quit the game, and after several arguments with a friend who invited him, I wound up never talking to either of them again. After hanging out with these guys multiple times a week, this is what killed the group for me. I got back into DMing, and I really enjoy it now. I've found newfound fun in this game, but it's been years, and still, when I think about this, I still get mad. It got a bad mark on my hobby. TLDR, it's a good story. You should read it. Don't worry, I did. But my best friend invited someone to come DM for us who had written a book about his world. He and I negotiated a Chod cleric I would play. Once we got to the table, even after extensive approvals for my character, he tore my sheet into pieces and handed me an NPC class acolyte and said, "Children can't be player characters." After outrage, he gave me back my player class, but my character is now traumatized and I go into a blood rage so he can take it over at any time, to which he did all the time, leaving no reason for me to even be there. Whew, boy, we have an amalgam of things here. We've got targeting, railroading, the DM with a little bit of an author complex, someone who, in general, from the outside looking in, looks like they have their head up their ass. And yeah, that's a problem when you're a DM. You're not there to dictate the story to your players. You have a very important role in it. You matter as the dungeon master. However, your players also matter. They also have a role there. And I understand that sometimes player characters won't fit into your world. However, you need to communicate that early when they're asking for approval. This guy approved the character and then used it as some kind of "it's just a prank, bro" to tear up the sheet and give this person a literal NPC that they can take control of. That sucks. It just reeks of a DM who's exploiting somebody who's clearly excited and using their excitement as just a way to mock them. Horrible, horrible attitude, especially when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons, where people's buy-in and investment really matters to making the game fun. I wish the DM luck on his comic book. Based on the way this story went, it's probably not going to be the best. I'm a longtime Vampire the Masquerade fan, usually an eternal storyteller, never a player, so I'm excited to join this group of acquaintances, embracing the chance to be a player for the first time. We did play a few games together, where I am usually the DM, or just a spectator, or sometimes taking over an NPC for the fun of it, and they were pretty good at acting and were pretty knowledgeable with the source books. As we are setting the game, characters and whatnot, we are handed the regular questions about what's acceptable in the game. Most players said okay to sex being described, while I was basically the only one to go, if it fits the story, sure, I don't mind, as long as it has a reason, and that was a big mistake. The DM reassured me that role-playing and story building and plot investigation were the focus of the game. Spoilers, it won't be. Alright. I had recently watched Let the Right One In, great vampire movie, and was thrilled about the whole concept of it. I could trace a lot of Armand from the Vampire Chronicles and Rice in Ellie and wanted to make a character just like them. Basically the same background story. A slave who's Okay. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't that. Anyway, they were transformed into a creature of the night and hunt down their sires. My character's redemption would be to try and reach a conclusion to the abuse that they had suffered, either by accepting themselves or by hunting down the vampire who did this and destroying them. I remember even planning something out mentally to have reconstructive surgery with the Really? They're vampires that can shape flesh like it's clay. I get one of them from our group of players. First session starts, and my character had basically no resources. Her reason for this is she snuck into town to avoid having to introduce herself to the prince, more influential and powerful vampire of the town, in hopes of scouring the place out while pretending to be a thin blood, basically a homeless vampire who is hated by everyone, but protects themselves by numbers. and I'm pretty sure the town had no scourge, who are vampires that hunt down the thin bloods. So I dug around, raised some info. Most of the players were either independent or sabbats, a rival faction to the prince I was looking for. So this would leave enough hooks for my character to interact with these people. She takes a bus with the money she pickpockets from a nearby trucker. She sits by a bench, fiddling with her pockets. She interacts with an old lady, making some horrendous remarks. She gets in the bus, and we're moving downtown. Cut to the other players. They were mostly interacting with humans in nightclubs, bars, and whatnot. They were seducing said mortals to the common places of carnage feeding. Their apartments, motels, booths, etc. Regular feeding stuff, but they're full of blood already. Back to my character, she suddenly has to go to an Elysium, which is a vampire meeting sanctioned by the prince. That left me baffled, as I obviously had set up that my character would not introduce herself to the prince. Yet the DM admits that somehow one of the prince's henchmen managed to find me pretty quick and is forcing me to attend. Fine, those things happen, especially with auspex, which are the seeking, invisible, super enhanced senses. They're so common. Let's head to the Elysium then. GM assures me that this is part of the plot. Sure. Well, we act the scene of me being approached by said henchman and said henchman threatening me to attend, so it's cool. Cut back to the other players. They're describing themselves having... They're doing the thing with the mortals. The feeding bit is taking a long time to show up. Now they're making remarks to said mortals, like having a girlfriend experience with a DM. It's kind of boring, to be honest, but they seem to be enjoying it, so I shrug. More power to them, I guess. Cut back to my character, still on the bus, still going to the Elysium. I try to interact with some of the other riders, making funny remarks like, "This town is pretty big," or "Holy, ain't this bus slow?" to a couple of bystanders. Are we there yet? Cut back to the other players. First round is done, and DM is asking about the next victims. All players go back to hunting. Some start hunting together and going into master debating clubs as a group. I'm rolling my eyes, waiting for plot to happen. End of first session. It was a pretty long one, as I remember. We probably started at 7 p.m. and ended at about 1 a.m. My character was stuck in the bus for the whole session. Their characters were definitely advancing pants plots. I voiced my concerns, like no plot is happening, where we're supposed to focus on the plot, but I'm assured it'll be fine. Let's focus on the next session. GM said he will make it up to me for not having enough stuff happen to my character. I mean, not much stuff is happening to any characters, but everyone else seems to be enjoying it. Next session comes up, and lo and behold, I'm still on the bus. As a joke, I state, I'm trying to decipher what sort of thaumaturgy, vampire blood magic, that I'm stuck in. Or maybe it's... why isn't it just called illusion? Anyway, I say, we must be almost there, right? My character has auspex, so I asked to make a few rolls on that just for the memes. Storyteller jumps quickly to the other players. More... carnal activities. The DM skips my turn, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's probably just more bus stuff anyway. DM skips again, and again, and I state, well, I guess I'm not having another turn. Wish everyone a good night and quit the Skype call. Never played with them again. The DM reaches out and says that I shouldn't have left. My turn would have come up. I'm like, sure, I'll join when my turn is up. I'm still waiting for my turn to come back up. From the logs, they still played 3 to 4 sessions after that without my presence. Later, I found out 2 of the players hooked up IRL. You know, kudos to them. I'm still waiting for my plot to happen. Character's still stuck on that bus until the end of time. You know, if I had a nickel for every time a weird sexual plot happened on a bus, I'd have 2 nickels. Something, something, something. Weird to happen twice. Seriously though, this is absolutely crazy. I cannot even begin to decipher the method behind the madness of what this DM was attempting. Maybe they were waiting for our OP, our writer here, to get in on the sexy times on the bus? I don't know. Perhaps that was the goal? But I feel like if that was the goal, the DM would have said something about it. Though, actually now that I think about it, thank God they didn't say anything about it. I think that would have made the story even more gross. I mean, look, I'm glad the other players are having fun with their highly erotic vampire game. Good for them. However, this is the exact reason why being very specific in Session 0 can be helpful. Look, I get it. You don't want to overwhelm players. But also, at the same time, you don't want to miscommunicate. I mean, here, you gotta be blunt. Just tell the player, look, this is gonna be a really sexual game. Are you down for that? And I think this situation could have been prevented. Instead, this poor person got tricked into the game and then stuck on the bus. Which, yeah, not great. Alright, and that's it for today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. Not gonna lie, between editing this video and recording this outro, I watched the entire Dungeons & Dragons movie. I really enjoyed it, but now it's 2 a.m., and oh my god, I need to sleep. But in any case, if you guys enjoyed it, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Crown of Deceit D&D podcast. New episode is coming out this weekend. So yeah, it's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. It's a game, not a book, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And that's all. Comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.